This is John for Global Women's Sports Radio. Today, I have the pleasure of being on the beat with a longtime friend, the creator behind Windy City Slam, Mike Pankow. How are you, sir?
I am doing great, John. How you doing?
I am doing good. It's always good to see you. It's always good to talk a little wrestling with you. Ready to jump right in?
Absolutely.
Let's start off with the big boys. The Royal Rumble earlier this year, the women's Royal Rumble specifically. They had a lot of old timers coming back, a lot of kind of mid-range old timers. What were your thoughts on that?
I really enjoyed the nostalgia factors with that. I mean, you had Lita coming back and having a strong performance, obviously. Molly Holly is Mighty Molly, which I really enjoyed. Molly Holly, one of the greatest, probably underrated workers of our time. And she got her Hall of Fame due just recently. So happy about that. And it was cool to see her back again. And Ivory coming out as right to censor. Ivory was hilarious.
Did you think though it was kind of like, did they take spots away from talent that could have used that limelight, if you will?
I mean, not as bad this year as in maybe past years because they elected not to really go the NXT route this time around with talents. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a Cora Jade called up or Raquel Gonzalez from NXT, people like that. But I think this year's Women's Rumble was really good in that respect. And not really taking away spots. No Santina Morellas, no Vicky Guerreros or anything like that.
And let's move on to the WrestleMania then. Some interesting stuff. Bianca Belair beat Becky. Then you had Ronda lost to Charlotte, which some people thought was a major upset. You had new tag champs. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, kind of a mixed bag, like you said. Really enjoyed Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch's Raw Women's Championship match. Really strong match. The end of a really great story between the two. Becky obviously being gone with the pregnancy, then surprising Bianca at SummerSlam last year with the 26 seconds and winning the title, then kind of turning heel. Then Bianca kind of fighting back into contention, using the hair as a whip to whip Becky's chest at one point, got her all red. That was crazy. And I thought the match was really well done. I mean, probably the best women's match out of the three on the show. And my second favorite women's match on the show was that four-way tag match on WrestleMania Sunday, where we had Sasha Banks and Naomi, formerly known as Team Bad, winning the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships from Carmella and Zelina Vega. Four really fun teams. Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan are pretty cool, although I think that team's probably on the outs in the next couple of weeks. And then you had the really cool veterans in Natalya and Shayna Baszler, a team that I really like too. But Naomi and Sasha, as soon as they were formed just a few weeks ago on SmackDown, I had a feeling that they were going to be the ones that came out on top. And sure enough, they delivered.
You know, I have to admit, I was not looking forward to that match. I thought it was just a bunch of people thrown in, and I was wrong. It was for me a surprisingly good match, top to bottom. Even like you said, Natalya, and I kind of view Natalya. I love Natalya. I think she's a great worker, but I never view her as being the top end in the league anymore. She's kind of the seasoned veteran. She had a great role in that match.
Yeah. She's like the Christian, like when Christian was still in WWE a few years ago.
Good call.
The guy that did the good work rate, did the jobs as needed, put people over, kind of made others look better. And that's what Natalya is. And I'm sure we're going to get to this in a little bit when we're talking about underutilized and underrated and stuff like that. But Natalya is definitely on that list. But let me get back to Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey from WrestleMania Saturday. I thought that could have been so much better. And it was okay for what it was. I mean, they're solid, but I was a little disappointed with the finish, the ref bump, and Charlotte winning. I kind of wanted Ronda to win. I kind of wanted Ronda versus Becky because I still think there's a story that needs to be told there from a few years ago with Becky kind of winning the triple threat and becoming Becky 2 belts. Also, Ronda's only loss to date until now with that Charlotte loss. And then her shoulders weren't even down for the whole 3 count when Becky pinned her too. So I thought that story really told itself. When they had Ronda go after Charlotte, I was a little disappointed.
Then where does Ronda go from now? Is there a rematch now with Charlotte, or does she spin off to somewhere else? Because that was weird. Like, she did come back. They had the nice build, her coming back, the return, and then it kind of fell flat. And I agree with you. I didn't like the ref bump in the end.
Yeah, it fell flat. It really did. And where Ronda goes next from here. SmackDown hasn't aired as of this recording as of yet, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any further development on that story. But will we see any people we haven't seen in a while? Will we see an Alexa Bliss turn up? Will we see a Lacey Evans turn up? Will we see an Asuka turn up?
Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey. Bailey's one of my favorites. I mean, honest to God, I'm surprised we haven't seen her back yet. I mean, I think at some point you see Bailey and you maybe see her on SmackDown going after Charlotte.
Well, you mentioned it a few minutes ago, so let's get into it. Who do you think your top few? It doesn't have to be WWE. It could be Impact. It could be AEW or WWE. Who are your top few underutilized, underappreciated wrestlers, women wrestlers, obviously, out there?
Yeah, I threw a list together from the WWE and AEW, and I could maybe see if I could pull off something off the top of my head from Impact. But WWE, I mentioned Natalya. I mean, she's been there for like 14 years now or whatever, and she's incredible. She's really good at what she does. Obviously, she's part of the Hart family. Really, really good at what she does, like I said, and amazing athlete, great teacher as well. She does a lot of stuff on the side, teaching young talents, both men and women, down in Florida with her husband, Tyson Kidd. She's just incredible. And I think it's just somebody who I always thought should get more accolades. Doudrop is another one. I think they should have kept her as Piper Niven. She was a total badass at NXT UK, running through the competition. And then they threw her with Eva Marie a few months back, and they changed it.
I'm trying to forget that one.
Yeah. It's kind of goofy, but yeah, she's actually much better than she's given credit for. Naomi is another one. She's had a few big WrestleMania wins, but there are times it seems like she gets crapped on a lot too. And with this whole Sonya Deville storyline, I mean, wow. I mean, she really got the screws put to her multiple times. I know they're trying to have her kind of overcome, and she kind of has overcome now with Sasha, but every time we think Naomi's going to get a good push, they seem to unplug her, and it takes a while for her to get back up there. And I mentioned Shayna Baszler earlier too. Total badass. Should be a dominant women's champion, in my opinion. And one more for you from WWE, Shotzi, the former Shotzi Blackheart, who used to do a lot of local stuff in our area as well. I just think she needs more TV time. She's got a unique look. She's a cool character. I think people gravitate to her. I would love to see more Shotzi. AEW, there's a few that I'll mention. Hikaru Shida was probably the best wrestler they had a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and her push has diminished quite a bit. I mean, no discredit to people like Britt Baker, who has really, really come on strong. I love Britt Baker, but she has been kind of pushed into the shadows a little bit. And then there's Abaddon, who's kind of like a zombie-like character, mostly on AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. But I think she's a really cool character, a different look. I would love to see her get more of a push. And then there's the kind of the veteran Leva Bates, the Librarian. Remember her as Blue Pants in NXT. She had a decent little push at the beginning of AEW, and now she's kind of like more in the background. And I think she should be featured more too. I think she's really, really good. Down in NXT, I say push Cora Jade to the moon. I know she's getting a pretty decent push now. The former Elena Black of the Chicago scene. She's a Plainfield girl. Really, really passionate, really, really coming on very, very quickly in the business. I would have loved to have seen her win the women's title. So I will say she's a little bit underpushed in my opinion, even though she is getting a nice push. As for Impact, I was so glad to see Mickie James get another run. I'm trying to think if there's anybody on that roster that I think can be utilized any better. I think Impact does a pretty good job with their women's talent for the most part in terms of putting them in the right position. So I can't really think of anybody at the moment.
Well, you are the king of the indies. And I mean that with all due respect. You are the master of the indies, especially in the Chicagoland area. So let's take it to the indie scene. Who are some of the hot up and comers that you've seen around that you think within whatever 2-3 years might be on the big stage?
Well, I think we've already kind of seen it a little bit from Sky Blue. I don't think she's officially necessarily signed with AEW, but she wrestles there quite a bit. And she is somebody from the Chicago scene. She just turned 22 not that long ago. And she's been the former CSW champion, that's Chicago Style Wrestling. She's the current AAW Pro Women's Champion. I think, no pun intended, the sky is the limit for Sky Blue. And she's really, really excellent at what she does. Laney Luck is a name that I've been following for several years now. And now she's going just by Laney in the freelances. She dropped the Luck as she turned heel, but she's a hell of a worker, great talent, mixes high flying with lucha, with regular submissions, stuff like that. It's a great package. And I can't see her not making it big somewhere in the next couple of years. I really, really like what she can do. Kylie Ray is someone that's been kind of up and down the last couple of years. She's a terrific talent, a terrific person. I know she's been fighting a few demons here and there. She's on a bit of a lighter schedule right now, but she's still helping train at Freelance Wrestling Academy, which is cool. I think at some point, if she puts her mind to it, she can be as big as she wants to be. Kylie Ray is also another great talent. Oh my God, some of the other local names, I'm just going to throw names out and that I've covered over the past couple of years. Sure. Thunder Rosa is currently the Warrior Wrestling Champion, as well as the AEW Women's Champion. She's going to be dropping the Warrior title. She's going to be giving it up at the next Warrior show in South Bend. So we're going to have a new champion there, but she's a hell of a wrestler, as people already have seen on AEW. Heather Reckless is the CSW Women's Champion. She's really, really good. A young competitor, graduate of Black and Brave. That's Seth Rollins and Merrick Brave school up out in Davenport in the Quad Cities. Athena, the former Ember Moon, has been doing some work with Warrior Wrestling too. It's looked terrific. She had a hell of a match with Thunder Rosa, 30-minute time limit draw in Cicero back in February. I love watching her work. Also, Missa Kate, who wrestles for various promotions like Zello Pro. I think she's back wrestling a little bit with Gali Lucha Libre now. Billy Starks is the second wrestling champion, and that's a title contested by men and women. It's one title. She won the first ever second tournament. Now, obviously, you got a chance to see Billy at the same show I did for Second Wrestling a few weeks ago.
She was amazing. When I was sitting there, and I love women's wrestling, but she's got to be two men. How did she do that? Make it look believable, make it, get the crowd behind her. Totally fell into it. She brawled on the outside. She technically wrestled on the inside. She did it all. And by the end of the night, you saw it too. I mean, the fans went crazy for her. I'm dying to see where they're going to go next with her, who she's going to defend it against, if it's going to be Darren Corbin again or who. But I think she's got a brilliant future.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's 17 years old.
Yeah. Which
is even crazier. She's still in high school.
That's insane. Yeah, a high school kid.
Yeah.
But since you mentioned Second Wrestling really put on a great show. And unfortunately, their next show, I think, is in Texas. So it's a little bit of a road trip. I won't be going to that one. But they did announce a show, I believe, in June or July up in the northern suburbs here. Yes. So it's something to look forward to for me, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can make it out to that, but we'll talk about that down the line. Another person we saw at that Second Wrestling show is Blair Onyx. She is really, really good. She's up and coming. The last couple of years, she's been getting some key wins. She just beat Laney over at Second Wrestling. She's also the Zello Pro holder of the Fool's Gold Medallion. Now, this is an interesting little title that they have. It just started over at Zello Pro while they were down in Texas over the WrestleMania weekend. It was a gauntlet match that Mr. Kate originally won. But the rules of the Fool's Gold Medallion are as follows, basically. You can cash it in for a title shot at any point, but anybody can come after you at any point. So it's kind of almost like a Money in a Bank combined with a 24/7 title.
Interesting.
Yeah. So after the match, Blair Onyx, who was pinned earlier in the match by Mr. Kate, came back out, challenges Mr. Kate for the medallion and beats her. So she ended up winning that medallion. Now she is the holder of that. So she can challenge, and get this, she can challenge either GPA, who's the Zello Pro champion, or Laney Luck, who's the Zello Pro Women's champion. So they said any champion. So either one of them is fair game.
Now you said anybody could challenge her for the medallion.
Yeah.
Does that have to be an official match, or is it like the 24th? Like, could they just get her outside of the ring?
They kind of did have an official match when she did the challenge. I think there probably will be more of an official match. So yeah, like for instance, backstage, I don't think they could beat each other up or whatever. It has to be out in the ring, I think. But I'm not 100% sure on that either. So
well, the fans want to see it out of the ring. So
yeah,
we'll keep it. So you're the king of indies. Let's talk about some of the federations you cover.
Yeah. Let's do that. So I just mentioned Zello Pro. They're one of the very, very best at showcasing women's wrestling on the independent scene. I mentioned to you later, Laney Luck, Blair Onyx, Missa Kate. Those are just a few of the outstanding women that work for Zello. They get Heather Reckless to come in. They get Sierra to come in from the Milwaukee area. They get Rachel Ellering. They sometimes get Chelsea Green. Jordan Grace was just recently the Zello Pro Women's Champion, and she's been doing big things over at Impact Wrestling.
Absolutely.
It's an incredible lineup and dedication to women that they have in Zello Pro. And I made a point to tweet this out a few days ago at Windy City Slam on Twitter, the Zello Pro attention to women. And then they had an all women's broadcast team with our friend Val Capone and Veda Scott. Yeah, it was cool. Really cool. Yeah. We definitely love Val. She is a great ambassador for Chicagoland independent wrestling, men and women. And I just love what she does. She's so knowledgeable. She's so passionate, enthusiastic. She's a ring announcer. She's an announcer. She's a backstage interviewer. And I think she still has a little bit of a notion of wanting to kick Frank the Clown around a little bit too. So,
well, hey, I saw Val going way back in her days as smashing it on the roller derby scene with the Windy City Rollers. So, hey, if she goes against Frank, my money's on Val.
I would think so too, especially since she just had some surgeries to kind of clean up a few things. So I think she'd be raring to go.
Well, who else you got covered? Who else do you cover?
Yeah, well, Warrior Wrestling is one I cover a lot of shows for. I mentioned Thunder Rosa earlier. Sky Blue does a lot of shows for them now. Athena actually has been working regularly with them. I got to see Miranda Alizé, the Lucha Baddie, at one of their recent shows. Billy Starks competed for them late last year. I'm trying to think who else. Taya Valkyrie has in the past. Britt Baker was a key part of Warrior a few years ago before her AEW run started. And Tessa Blanchard was their former Warrior Wrestling Women's Champion, as was Kylie Ray. So they've actually had some women come through there. And Jordan Grace, too. That's another great woman. And then Ray Lynn, who is Sam Adonis's girlfriend. And obviously Sam Adonis is Corey Graves' brother. So that's quite the wrestling family right there.
I didn't know that one. I learned something now.
Yeah, but Ray Lynn is also an excellent wrestler. She's been in town for Warrior a few times. And AAW, they have solid women's action. Now Sky Blue is their champion. They've had Hyan come in. They've had Chris Statlander is one of their former champions. Allison Kay is a former champion. They do a pretty good job with the women there as well. Chicago Style Wrestling, we got Heather Reckless as their champion. Sky Blue came through there. Missa Kate's run through there a bit. Laney Luck had matches there. Trying to think, and obviously in the past for Power Entertainment, when they had women's matches, Melanie Cruz, she's pretty damn awesome too.
I'm repping her, so yeah.
Now that's someone I would love to see more of. I know she's a mom now and she's got some other commitments. Little sad to see that her AEW run was kind of cut short for whatever reason, but I don't really know the behind the scenes on that at all. But I love to see Melanie Cruz. I just think she's a big time ass kicker. Yeah,
we're going to get to it in a minute. Melanie Cruz would be on my all-time independent Mount Rushmore. Absolutely, no doubt. She would be up there. Anybody else you cover on a regular basis?
I'm trying to think of other promotions that do.
Well, I know you second wrestling.
Yeah, second wrestling. Obviously, with the great women's interaction they had there, Billy and Blair were both in that tournament. I believe it was Billy going over Blair on the first round back at the first show last year. And then They had Laney Luck just now. They also had Free Range Kara, who used to be Kara Noya in the past, and she used to work the Chicago scene quite a bit too. And she's really talented as well. Freelance Underground also brings in a lot of great women. Laney Luck was their Freelance Underground Independent Champion for a while, and that's a title that's contested between men and women too, which is kind of cool. Blair Onyx has gone through there. Billy Starks has gone through there. Sky Blue had a match there recently or two. They also have Kayla Cassidy, who has come in for them a little bit here and there. Harlow O'Hara is an intriguing character, kind of a dark black magic type. So they get some pretty good women over at Freelance Underground as well, in addition to Freelance Wrestling in Chicago. And I'm trying to think any other local promotions that really do it good with the women. If you go up to Milwaukee, I love GLCW. You get to see Sierra up there quite a bit for them as well. And that's another talent that who's really, really good. I like Sierra a whole lot. She's Joey the Jet Avalon's girlfriend, and they travel to a lot of different shows together, and they work a lot of the same shows. And it's quite an amazing partnership, as well as just they're both really, really talented people.
Well, speaking of GLCW, I don't think you were not at the Blizzard Brawl, I don't think, but Linda Kay, the announcer, did you? She kicked butt in that match. She was supposed to be the ref. She tore the ref shirt off. We all figured, she's gonna, do the celebrity type thing. She obviously she's been training probably under Al Snow, whoever else, but she was phenomenal in that match. So I'm wondering if she's gonna have a future in wrestling. She was a little coy about it. She wasn't going to give away any secrets when I talked to her at the next show, but I think she'll be back in the ring at some point.
Yeah, I heard a lot of great things. I seen a little bit of video as well. I think she's really cool. She's a really good ring announcer, but obviously she also has this hidden talent as a pretty good professional wrestler too.
It surprised me. It surprised everyone around us. When you get surprised in wrestling, that's the coolest thing, because I didn't expect a whole lot from her, and she delivered unbelievably. So let's talk about, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you to name your Mount Rushmore of all time of indie and then all time of the big stage. And you define either as you wish, however way you want to define the big stage.
Indie could be interesting because I only have a few names on the list, and I didn't really kind of think that through as much as I could have. I guess let me start with my all-time list. I have a final four, and this took quite a bit of time to kind of narrow down. And there's some personal feelings on this too. And I know there's probably a couple I left out that people would be like, what is Mike thinking? But, I guess with these types of things, people are going to debate it. So,
well, and it changes too. Next time I ask you, you might have four different. So
it could change as the wind blows.
Exactly.
So, and my final four, my current Mount Rushmore of women's wrestlers all time, Sensational Sherry Martel has to be on that list. Great manager, great mouthpiece, and great in the ring. One of the best heels you ever see. Sensational Sherry, her connections with the AWA, WCW, and WWE, a really terrific worker, a really terrific manager and valet. I mean, just name the Hall of Famers she's been around. Macho Man Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase, Shawn Michaels, Harlem Heat. And even back in the AWA, she was with, I believe, Bad Company, Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka. So yeah, she's been around some people, and she did some great things on her own in the ring. She's fantastic. That's my first face. My second face is Trish Stratus. She was green as grass when she came in, but she was beautiful and she was fit. But she grew into the role so well. Guys like Fit Finlay really taught her well. She became one of the best workers they ever had, one of the best attractions that WWE ever had. So Trish Stratus also definitely on my Mount Rushmore. Charlotte Flair, yes, it may be early, but with the multiple championship reigns, she's in the teens already for championships. She's the daughter of Ric Flair. She's a really good promo. She's very good in the ring. I think she could even be better too if she works at a little bit more. But the fact that she kind of helped put this generation of women's wrestling on the map in WWE is a huge thing. She's also on my mountain. And my fourth one, this was really tough because I could have went any which way, but I decided to go to with Victoria, Lisa Marie Varon. I love her. She's actually a pretty good friend. Used to frequent her Square Circle restaurant in Chicago. Yes. And she is a hell of a wrestler. I mean, she was strong. She is athletic. She's won multiple WWE Women's Championships. She won a ton of Impact Knockouts Championships. She was really good in both of those promotions. The only thing that's missing from her, in my opinion, is the WWE Hall of Fame. She should have already been in. I don't understand why she's not yet. I'm kind of glad she returned at the Rumble in 2021. That was great to see. I totally marked out when I saw her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Lisa, just when you went to the Squared Circle, she'd give you a hug. You're like, you're one of the guys, and you're like one of her best friends. And she talked to you like it too. I was like, you knew each other for years, like even the first or second time you saw her. It's not like we go back to high school or something. She was a really, really kind, genuine person. I really love Lisa.
Well, I have to say your list is brilliant because I agree with three of them.
Charlotte?
I agree with, I thought I went with Trish. I went with Sherry Martel. I went with Alundra Blaze / Medusa.
That's a good one too.
And then I went with Lisa Marie Varon.
Yeah.
And by a narrow margin, Charlotte and Mickie James were 5 and 6.
Oh, okay. So,
but yeah, Trish Stratus, did anybody improve more from the time they started to, as you said, she was green and she's on our Mount Rushmore. That's the growth that she did. Yeah. And she worked her butt off to get there, and kudos to her, man. What a career she had.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Mickie James. She was actually my first out. And then Medusa was probably just on the edge of that as well. So we were kind of thinking the same way there. Mickie James has always been one of my favorites. I was actually at WrestleMania 22, about 7 rows back on the aisle. So I got to see everybody come up and down the aisle. I saw that famous Mickie James Trish Stratus match in person, and the crowd was absolutely electric for it. And they're cheering for Mickie. They're actually booing Trish, which is crazy to think about. I think they still respected Trish, but they were really pulling hard for Mickie. And I was one of those people pulling for Mickie too. She was new blood. She looked nice. She was great in the ring. The character was outstanding, kind of the stalker role that they put her in. It was a fantastic match. Probably up until just a few years ago was by far the best women's match at a WrestleMania.
Agreed. I was at that match. I didn't have the luxury seats that you did. I was up in the cheap seats, but still, it was cool, and the crowd absolutely flipped for that match.
Yeah, I was on credit counseling after that. So,
well, I know I put you on the spot, but could you try to name a few of your all-time indie favorites?
Indie favorites for like Mount Rushmore. I know people probably criticize me for not having enough information, but here's my Rushmore as of now. I think I'm just going to throw some names out there. I really do like Melanie Cruz. She's outstanding. She's competed for numerous promotions. She's wrestled against men, and she's just a great ass kicker. I love to have her on my list any day of the week. Kylie Ray over the past few years has been phenomenal. I think she's on there. A couple more. Let's see if I can. I really like Laney Luck. Over the last 3 to 4 years, she's been fantastic. Intergender, tag, mixed tag, straight women's wrestling, like the terrific style, great character. Now she's dabbling as a heel, which I really like. She's diversifying the character a little bit more. So I put Laney Luck on there as well. And wow, it's crazy. It might be early, but Sky Blue has been fantastic from what I've seen over the last year and a half in CSW and Warrior in AAW. And I know I probably didn't say a whole lot about Shimmer. Fortunately, I didn't get a chance to really see a whole lot of Shimmer. I only saw like videos and posts and stuff like that. But credit to Dave Prazak, because I want to just say, without Shimmer, we wouldn't have women's wrestling the way we have it today. Fantastic. All the different women from around the world coming through Shimmer. Now, a lot of them are in WWE, NXT, AEW, Impact, or someone even maybe back to the UK or Japan. But some of the greatest women's workers in the world. I just talked to Dave actually not that long ago at a freelance underground show where he was actually doing commentary.
Oh,
I was asking him to see if Shimmer might be coming back one day, and he could make a promise, but he said we had a hell of a run if this is it. So hats off to Dave Prazak and Shimmer. I definitely have to give them a lot of credit as well.
I think it's got to come back in some form, whether he's running it or he's partially running it. It was too successful. It ran too good of a run. It's got to come back in some form. Or if Shimmer doesn't come back, an identical, product like that will take its place. It's got to. It's too good. It was too popular.
And Chicago was pretty much the home base for it too. So it was really cool that a lot of that stuff was in our backyard.
Absolutely. Now for my indies, I go with you. I go with Melanie Cruz, Rachel Ellering, and I just blanked out Kylie Ray, and then I go with on the indie scene, she was Crazy Mary Dobson. On the WWE, she was Sarah Logan. That would be my top 4.
I really like her too a lot. I didn't get to see a whole lot of Crazy Mary Dobson stuff, and I wish I would have, because they actually performed at the old VFW in Summit, where my dad worked for many years as a bartender during the fish fries.
Okay.
My dad were still alive and realized wrestling was there, we probably would have went. I don't think they had wrestling until after he had passed.
Yeah, but she worked her butt off too. She got there when she was very young. She's still very young, and I hope that she comes back. It was cool to see her as one of the Royal Rumble entrants.
Yes. Yeah, and she's the husband of Eric Ray Rowe in WWE, the Viking Raiders, and they just had a baby. She looks terrific too. She's in incredible shape. Anytime I go to her Instagram, like there she is lifting or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes the baby be right on her, and she's still doing some sort of exercise or something like that. And she's incredible. I always liked her look, even back in the day, early part of WWE when she was part of the Riot Squad.
Yeah, she's young enough where, I know wrestling's not in her immediate future, but she's young enough where, and we all know, retirement is never retirement in wrestling. So yes. There's a very good chance we'll see her at some point down the line. Before I let you go, Mike, it's your chance to plug everything you got. I know you got your hands in a lot of things. You got a website, you got a podcast, you're covering everything. Let's hear it all, my friend.
All right. Yeah, we have windycityslam.com. That's coverage of local and national wrestling, primarily Chicago independents. We have stories, we have features, event coverage. We have an event calendar that we try our best to keep up to date as we possibly can. Plus, we have photo galleries of shows that I get a chance to take photos at too. Very, very excited. The next 2 shows I'm going to be at covering: Friday, April the 22nd in Franklin Park, I will be at Chicago Style Wrestling, ringside shooting photos, and then I'll be doing a recap afterward, as well as All Heel Wrestling, Sunday, May the 1st, Paris Banquet Hall in North Chicago. So those are my next 2 in-person shows for Windy City Slam. Also, the Windy City Slam podcast drops every Tuesday, and I've been priding myself on getting a guest every week. We've had a guest on every show since December of 2020. We're on a roll with getting good guests. Recently, I had Zach Gowen on, and in the past, I've had people like the Good Brothers, Sam Adonis, Brian Pillman Jr., Drama King Matt Raywolf, Vic Capri, Jimmy Blaze, Johngy, John Roboleski, Jesus Bryce, Marvelous Matt Nix, Eric Priest, Trevor Blanchard, and some of the women too, Laney Luck, Sky Blue, Missa Kate, Val Capone, young wrestlers like Trevor Outlaw, the Bang Bros, Gunner Brave, and even like media types like Jonathan Hood, Dave LaGreca from Busted Open Radio, Nick Hausman from Wrestling Inc., and even Izzy from Izzy Mania. So I've had a variety of guests, a lot of fun. I've even had referees and promoters on as well. So it's a fun podcast. We go 30 to 60 minutes-ish each week. Drops every Tuesday, available wherever you get your podcasts, and also at windycityslam.com. And finally, I have a personal YouTube page, Mike Pankow, that's Pankow, where I have some of my wrestling interviews from both windycityslam.com and the podcast, some snippets from the podcast, in addition to some other stuff that I've done. So check those out and follow us, Windy City Slam, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Windy City Slam.
Yeah, I have to say your podcast, not only have you had a guest on for X number of weeks, but you've had great guests. It's not you're not going out there combing the rosters and picking off guys that have wrestled one match or whatever, or you're grabbing names. And I've known you for a long time, and I know the level of coverage that you provide. But some of the names you've popped on that show have really surprised me. You are getting not only from Chicago, you're getting nationwide stars. And I love listening to the show, not just because I was on it, although thank you for the plug. I will send you the check later. But it's a fascinating. Any wrestling fan should check it out.
Thank you. I appreciate the kudos, and I try my very best to try to make it as good as I possibly can.
Well, it's totally deserved, my friend. Listen, I've taken up too much of your time already. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about women's wrestling. I'd love to. I got to do this more often so that so that I don't have 15 topics to cram into 20 minutes. But it's been a lot of fun. I love hearing your thoughts on women's wrestling, because you are the czar of the area, my friend, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, John.
Thanks for your time, Mike. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks.